free to be whoever you want to be. Feel free to dance, feel free to sing, just feel free. Feels like the world is picking on ya. Feels like it's picking on me. But trying to please everybody, that ain't no way to be.
What's going on, everybody? It is the 20th edition of the Two-Tone Talk podcast, and after all of the football that we've watched over the last however many months, it all comes down to the Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles, which is not particularly surprising given the landscape of the season and the football we watched. I don't think anybody is necessarily shocked that it's coming down to these two. I think, these were two teams that people kind of suspected it might come down to at the end, and that's exactly what happened. We are going to talk about the Super Bowl, as we have 2 weeks now to prepare for and talk about the Super Bowl. And also in the world of Tennessee Titans news, because this is the Two-Tone Talk podcast, after all, we talk about the Tennessee Titans as their search for an offensive coordinator continues. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I thought that we would have an offensive coordinator by now. I thought by now we would have hired somebody, but still no word on offensive coordinator. Maybe that'll happen today. Maybe it'll happen this week. I just saw before I hit record, the Dallas Cowboys obviously parted ways with offensive coordinator Kellen Moore. They announced that yesterday. Okay. And he's already been hired. He is the new offensive coordinator for the LA Chargers. So, there were some people speculating that the Titans should go after Kellen Moore. Well, they're not going to get Kellen Moore because the Chargers got him. So, either way, like I said, the search for an offensive coordinator continues, and we will continue to monitor that. Of course, in the world of other Titans news, as I said, Two-Tone Talk podcast. We're available on Spotify, Apple, SoundCloud, and YouTube. Please go subscribe to the Two-Tone Talk YouTube page and go follow me on Twitter at Two-Tone Talk. Other Titans news to kind of get into. Obviously, the offseason has begun, and there are a ton of rumors about certain people coming to the Titans. We've already seen the rumors about DeAndre Hopkins. We've seen the rumors about Tom Brady. But over the last week, the rumor mill has been running rampant about one Aaron Rodgers potentially coming to the Tennessee Titans. So a lot of stuff about Aaron Rodgers that has come out. First of all, the Green Bay Packers, this is different from the last couple of off seasons. The Green Bay Packers would prefer to move on from Aaron Rodgers. It looks like the Packers want to go with Jordan Love. They're ready to move on from Aaron Rodgers. Now, that is different from the last couple of off seasons, because the last couple of off seasons, it has kind of been a deal where they didn't want to get rid of him. Seems like this off season is a little different. Seems like the Packers are kind of eager to now move on from Aaron Rodgers. And furthermore, the rumor is they want to trade him to someone in the AFC. They do not want him staying in the NFC, where he could remain a problem for them. And that's already kind of ticking me off, because it's so lopsided. All due respect to the NFC, it's so lopsided right now. The AFC has Mahomes, Burrow, Allen, Lawrence, Herbert, Lamar Jackson. And now you're telling me you want to give the AFC Aaron Rodgers, maybe Tom Brady. literally the only thing the NFC has quarterback-wise is Jalen Hurts. Outside of Jalen Hurts, it's like nothing special. So it's crazy to me. I don't remember a time where one conference was so stacked with talent while the other conference just felt, you know, like I've seen people say that the Eagles have pretty much had a cakewalk to the Super Bowl. I mean, they beat the Giants, who weren't very good, and then they beat the 49ers, who were without a quarterback. I'll talk about that in a little bit. But, yeah, the Eagles definitely had an easier road to the Super Bowl than I would say the Chiefs did. But, I'm not going to fault the Eagles. I mean, they played who was in front of them. I mean, good for them. But, the idea of Aaron Rodgers, I mean, if he were to go to another team in the AFC that's not the Titans, boy, I mean, that's tough. Like, not to mention you've already, you've got Deshaun Watson in Cleveland. That's another AFC quarterback that may. I mean, who knows? It's crazy. And then you've got guys like Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud who are probably going to get drafted into the AFC. This is getting ridiculous. The lopsidedness in terms of quarterbacks in the AFC, quarterbacks in the NFC, it's unbelievable. But, the idea of Aaron Rodgers to the Titans. So we know the Packers want to move on from Rodgers. We know they want to trade him to somebody in the AFC. And, Aaron Rodgers, we have to throw out this option too. Aaron Rodgers still may retire. I mean, he may. That's still an option. He was on the Pat McAfee show where he appears regularly, and he said he's still trying to weigh his options, and he may very well call it a career. That's an option, just as much as it's an option for Tom Brady. But assuming he doesn't, and assuming he wants to come back and play, assuming the Packers do want to move on from him and that they want to trade him to somewhere in the AFC, how likely is it that the Tennessee Titans would make the move? Well, the first report that came out about Aaron Rodgers said that they wanted 2 first-rounders. The Packers want at least 2 first-round draft picks for Aaron Rodgers. Now, let me say this. If that's what they want, the Titans are going to have to bow out of that. You can't do that. I'm sorry. If you're the Titans and they want 2 first-round picks at least, you've got to say thanks, but no thanks. We can't do that. The only way I could see the Titans being able to pull this off is if, A, that report is false and the Packers don't want that much. That's the first way. The second way would be, if the Packers are trying to float that out there, we want a couple first-round picks, and nobody's willing to do it, then maybe the Packers will kind of let off the gas and say, okay, what about 1 first-round pick? Maybe they'll start lowering their standards for what they would want if nobody's going for it. Or if Ran Carthon and Mike Vrabel just happen to have a way with words. If Aaron Rodgers could go to the Packers and say, hey, this is where I want to go, is Nashville. That's the only way I can see this happening. But if the reports are true that they want that much for him, it can't happen. And I also think that there are going to be teams that are willing to give that up, such as somebody in the chat has said, the New York Jets seem like a prime candidate, to get Aaron Rodgers. They're in the AFC, and I think the Jets are a team who would be more willing to trade that kind of draft capital for somebody like Aaron Rodgers. Don't forget, the Jets were not bad this year. At one point, the Jets looked like they were going to be a surefire playoff team. They kind of melted down at the end. They don't have a quarterback. So, there's definitely that's a prime spot that Aaron Rodgers could go is to the Jets. I think obviously the Raiders are another team that people will look at. They may be willing to give up that kind of draft capital for Aaron Rodgers. And don't forget, his buddy Devontae Adams is there with the Raiders. So maybe that could pull him there. I will say the idea of Aaron Rodgers excites me more than Tom Brady or like Derek Carr. But Not if we have to give up that much draft capital to get him. If that's what they want, then I'm afraid we've got to bow out and go in another direction. In terms of other quarterback situations, listen, I think at the end of the day, the Ravens are going to find a way to re-sign Lamar Jackson, so I think we can give up on that fever dream. The idea of the Titans drafting up and getting either Bryce Young or C.J. Stroud seems like the longest of long shots, in my opinion. I would love it, but there's no telling what they'd have to give up. And I've said this time and time again, there are so many teams between the Titans at 11 and the Bears at 1 that need a quarterback. I don't know what the Titans would have to do to jump all of those teams to get up there. That's such a long shot to me. Realistically, I think your options are Ryan Tannehill, or if you want to grab somebody like Derek Carr or, Jimmy Garoppolo. I mean, that stuff's probably realistic. And, there's been a lot of talk about Trey Lance. The thing is, after what happened yesterday, I don't know what the 49ers are going to do at the quarterback situation. Whether they go back to Purdy or Lance, or if they want to bring in Tom Brady. Whatever. But, I don't know what they would want in a trade for Trey Lance. So that's something to continue to monitor. The Titans, the quarterback situation, the offensive coordinator situation. I feel like an offensive coordinator hire is probably imminent. This has been a couple of weeks now that this search has been on. And so, the encouraging thing is that it would seem as though the Titans are not just saying, all right, give the job to Tim Kelly. He's an in-house hire. There's also been a lot of rumors about Rand Carthon and what he views the future as for Malik Willis and what kind of vision he has for him. I don't know if I believe any of these reports that Rand Carthon wants to develop Malik Willis into a Patrick Mahomes-like quarterback. I don't know. I'm pretty sure everybody would love to develop their quarterback into a Patrick Mahomes-like quarterback. Of course, everybody wants to do that. But as far as, something that could realistically happen, Malik Willis has got a long way to go. And I don't even know if I believe these reports that Rand Carthon has even made these type statements about Malik Willis. But even if he has, that's pretty general. Like, of course, if you have a young quarterback on the roster, you're going to say, man, I hope he's like Mahomes. Of course. Of course. Stanley Wilson in the YouTube chat says, one thing that makes me upset is that we have 2 players from last year that are going to the Super Bowl. Yeah, we do. And I'm going to talk about that. Let's just talk about it now. It's a good segue. Yesterday was Championship Sunday, the NFC title game, the AFC title game. And up first, the Eagles put a whooping on the 49ers. 31-7, which I think was the exact same final score as when they beat the Giants. Obviously, the 49ers, Brock Purdy got hurt earlier in the game. They put in Josh Johnson. He got hurt, and the 49ers were literally, I've never seen that, they're literally having to run Wildcat with Christian McCaffrey for much of the second half because they didn't have a quarterback. But the Eagles win soundly, and they're going to the Super Bowl, which means A.J. Brown is going to the Super Bowl, and also means Brett Kern is going to the Super Bowl. Happy for Kern, whatever. As far as A.J., I can't. I don't know if I have it in me to continue to get mad at AJ. Yes, he has said some things about Titans fans that he has kind of bickered back and forth on Twitter and Instagram. Some stuff that I think should be beneath him, but as annoying as that can be, if you want to get mad at somebody for the fact that A.J. Brown is in Philadelphia, get mad at John Robinson, man. It's one of the stupidest trades I've ever seen. We knew it when it happened. On draft night when the trade happened, we all sat there and said, this is stupid. We're going to be worse for this. And it all came to fruition. It all came to fruition. If you want to get mad at somebody, get mad at John Robinson, who's already paid the price. Listen, Amy Adams Strunk can say whatever she wants to, that it wasn't just because of the A.J. Brown trade, and I'm sure it wasn't just because of the A.J. Brown trade, but I think it's the leading cause. I think when it happened, and let's not be naive. I mean, Amy Adams Strunk deserves some of the blame because she was in the room, as they say in Hamilton the musical, she was in the room where it happened. And she didn't do nothing about it. She could, as the owner, she could have said, no, we're not trading A.J. Brown. She has made some statements that lead us to believe that John Robinson was not a collaborator. He didn't seek enough counsel or from other people. We know Mike Vrabel, I mean, the video was there that he was upset about the A.J. Brown trade the night it happened, but, somebody could have stepped in, I have to believe. Amy Adams Strunk, I mean, John Robinson was working for her. She could have done something. And maybe she kind of, in her mind, made the ultimatum right there. If this trade ends up being a terrible decision, I'm firing him. And it ended up being a terrible decision. But it shouldn't have come to that. You shouldn't have had to watch the Eagles be great and the Titans be that much worse to realize it was a stupid idea. It was a stupid idea in April when it happened. And John Robinson was held accountable. And he was the main culprit, but let's not let Amy Adams Strunk off the hook either. She's the owner. Like I said, John Robinson worked for her. It was a complete failure by this organization to let this guy go. It was a complete and utter failure. It was incompetence at the highest level. And now, in 2 weeks, we're going to watch A.J. Brown play in the Super Bowl. And don't get mad at A.J. Get mad at John Robinson. Get mad at the Titans. They let it happen. They looked at the best wide receiver we've ever had, and they said, we don't need to pay him. Lunacy. But we've been talking about it since April. Really nothing else we can say. The Eagles clobbered the 49ers. I mean, listen, it kind of was ridiculous to hear all these announcers and media personalities say, oh, you have to hate this for the 49ers, man. It shouldn't come down to injuries like this costing you, such an important game. I'm just sitting there like, dude, can you imagine being a freaking Titans fan for a second? Like, you're preaching to the choir, man. I mean, I hate it for the 49ers because I was rooting for them and everything, but I'm like, yeah, welcome to our world. Welcome to our world. 2 straight seasons where we've had to limp into literally every game that we've played. But yeah, 49ers NFC title game, and you feel like they never really had a shot after Purdy went down. You can have that stacked roster all around you, but if you have literally no quarterback, they didn't have a quarterback in the second half. I don't know what you're supposed to do. So the Eagles are going to the Super Bowl, and people say they've had a cakewalk to get there, but at the end of the day, I'm not going to fault the Eagles for playing the teams that were put in front of them. I mean, yeah, the NFC at the quarterback position does not have nearly the talent that the AFC does, but that ain't the Eagles' fault. Eagles are in the Super Bowl. Chiefs beat the Bengals last night, 23-20, and the Chiefs will play the Eagles in the Super Bowl. Patrick Mahomes, his 5th straight AFC Championship appearance. He's about to make his 3rd Super Bowl appearance, attempting to win his 2nd ring of his young career. Everything I could say about Patrick Mahomes, I said on last week's episode. You don't have to like the guy. I don't like the Chiefs. But let me tell you something. Patrick Mahomes is the best thing going today. Burrow's great. Allen's great. Herbert's great. There's a lot of great young talent. But Mahomes is still the standard bearer, and it's not just because he can throw it across his body, and it's not just because he can extend plays and throw across the field and stand on his head and throw it backwards and hit receivers in stride. It's not just because of that. It's because the guy just finds a way. I'm telling you, he finds a way, whether it's 13 seconds left against the Bills, whether it's playing through a high ankle sprain, whether it's last play of the game and you just are trying to get down there for a field goal and you got to run out of bounds and draw the penalty and then set up your team. I mean, Patrick Mahomes is a guy, whether you like him or not, he finds a way. He's got heart. And while all these other guys talk about it and we have high hopes for him, Mahomes just keeps doing it. He keeps doing it. I don't know what else to tell you about this guy. He's unbelievable. And he's still the best thing going. And so it's Chiefs and it's Eagles in the Super Bowl. Now Mahomes has 2 weeks to get healthier, and it's another reason. I think Patrick Mahomes is the MVP of the league this year. That's a boring answer, but he lost his best wide receiver. And you want to talk about a guy finding a way to win. Juju Smith-Schuster last night, out. McCole Hardman, out. A bunch of defensive guys, out, injured. The guy just finds a way. Against the hottest team in the league in Cincinnati, finds a way. And as far as Cincinnati, bro, they talked all that crap all week, and I knew. Everybody was picking the Bengals to win, and I picked the Chiefs. But then, after I picked the Chiefs, I especially started feeling confident in the Chiefs because I saw all that crap Cincinnati was talking. I was like, man, y'all need to shut up and play. Like, y'all get a little too big for your britches. That's exactly what happened, and now the Chiefs got the last laugh. I want to talk about officiating. And in order to do that, I want to first start in a weird place. I want to start in the NBA. Because the NBA officiating has come under scrutiny. Now, for those of you who don't know, I am a big Lakers fan. I know. Send your hate mail all you want. A big Lakers fan. And the other night, the Lakers were playing, and it was a close game, and there seemed to be an obvious foul on LeBron James that the refs didn't call. And Patrick Beverley, a player for the Lakers, got one of the cameras with evidence on it of a foul, took it to a referee and showed him. He's like, look at this. You tell me that's not a foul? He got teed up, kicked out of the game. But in the NBA, there's been a lot of bad officiating. And here's why I bring that up. You say, how does this relate to the NFL? Dennis Schroeder, a player for the Lakers, said this on his Instagram story. He was talking about NBA officiating, but I thought it applied to the NFL as well. I loved this. He said the refs have got to start getting fined for their mistakes. This is from an actual NBA player with the Lakers. He said the refs got to start getting fined for their mistakes. They're giving out technical fouls to people who are reacting to their mistakes. The replay center should also use replay to get these calls right, especially on the important play like the obvious foul on LeBron at the end of the game. This needs to stop. We need every win we can get in this league to reach our goals. To lose 3 to 5 games this season off of referees' mistakes is really hard. Now, he was talking about the NBA, obviously. But I read that and I was like, first of all, amen in terms of NBA officiating, but let's apply that to NFL officiating as well. All officiating, college football, all of it. I don't remember what episode, it was after a Titans game or something. I ranted about officiating. And we all pull for our own individual teams, but at the end of the day, there's some common ground that I think we can all find in the NFL, no matter who we're fans of. NFL officiating sucks. It sucks. It's horrible. It's the worst it's ever been. And don't think that I'm about to sit here and tell you that the Eagles or the Chiefs don't deserve to be in the Super Bowl. No, they do. They do. They deserve to be there. I'm not here to take away anything from them. They deserve to be where they are. So if you're an Eagles or a Chiefs fan who are listening to this or watching this, don't think that I'm about to say your team doesn't deserve to be in the Super Bowl, because they do. This isn't about that. But we watched this all season. All 32 teams fans of all 32 teams have experienced this, and it's worse over these last few years than it's ever been. It's unacceptable. When I'm watching the Chiefs and the Bengals in an AFC title game, and the Chiefs run a play on third down, they don't get the first down, and so they send their punt team out on the field, and they're literally about to punt, and then the referees are like, hold on a second, whoa. Last play didn't count. Last play didn't count. Sorry. Do that over. How are we letting this happen at all, much less in an AFC championship game for the right to go to the Super Bowl? That is so poor. And ultimately, I think Mahomes ended up getting sacked on the next play, but they called a penalty on Cincinnati, and so then they, at the end of the day, Kansas City didn't end up scoring on that drive. But that's not the point. The principle is, this is the AFC title game. These are guys who have worked their butts off on both teams all year, and they have earned the right to decide who wins and who loses. Obviously, penalties happen. Pass interference, holding, face mask, you have to call those things. But to just run out there and be like, hey, whoa, sorry guys, last play didn't count, let's do it again. Unacceptable. We saw missed calls in both games yesterday that were so obvious. Everybody on Twitter is like, hey, did anybody else see that block in the back on the punt? The most obvious thing in the world. Nobody called? Yeah. Everybody saw it. Except the stupid officials who were right there watching it before their very eyes. And you want to know the worst part? I realize human error. People make mistakes, including referees. I understand. Sometimes in the heat of the moment, you miss calls, you make bad calls. Sometimes that happens. But you know what? It's been years of some of the worst officiating of all time. Officiating that is so bad sometimes, it literally decides games in the regular season and the playoffs. And continually, not only are these referees not held accountable, but most of the time they're praised for it. There's no accountability for referees. What Dennis Schroeder said about the NBA officiating, it applies to the NFL as well. No accountability, no responsibility for these awful, awful calls they're making. No responsibility at all. They just make them. It changes the outlook of the game. It's horrible. It too many times decides the games. And then they just, whatever, they just go on. Was it Bosa for the Chargers weeks ago? I realize a lot of people thought he was out of line, but in the locker room after they lost to the Jaguars, I agreed with everything he had to say. He's like, I'm going to get fined for calling out how bad they were at their jobs tonight. They were the ones who screwed this whole thing up, and you're going to get mad at me for reacting to it, is what Dennis Schroeder just said about the NBA officiating. People are getting kicked out of games because they're acknowledging the mistakes of the officials. Because in all these sports leagues, nobody will hold the referees accountable. They don't get fined. Nothing. They make these horrible calls, and everybody else gets held accountable. Coaches, players, they say something out of line, they do something out of line, they're getting fined, they're getting suspended, whatever. But referees, they make these horrible game-changing calls, and they just continue on about their business. It's garbage. And you know what the NFL deserves? They deserve to have this Super Bowl in 2 weeks be decided on some stupid call like that. They deserve to have it happen in front of the whole world and be humiliated for it. And you know what? Nothing's going to change. Nothing's going to change. The officiating yesterday in such big moments like that was horrible, but nothing's going to change. You want to know how I know nothing's going to change? Because you remember that NFC, somebody in the YouTube chat already mentioned it, the NFC title game years ago with the obvious defensive pass interference on the Rams, the most obvious pass interference of all time, no call. Literally was the difference in who went to the Super Bowl, and nothing. No change. If anything, the officiating got worse after that. So no, ain't nothing going to change. If it didn't change then, why would it change now? There's an Eagles-49ers game. The Eagles got the ball. Devontae Smith makes that one-handed thing, the one-handed catch. No review. Nobody looked at it. And, afterwards we had to acknowledge it was an obvious incomplete pass. That was 4th and 3. That was the difference in the 49ers getting the ball and the Eagles having 1st and goal. Nobody even looked at it. You want to know what happened on that play? You can say, well, they didn't have time. They didn't have time to look at all angles. But you want to know what happened? Go back and watch. When Devontae Smith, God bless him, he's a great wide receiver, he got up. You know what he did? He was making a signal. He said, we got to run another play. We got to run another play right now. He got up from the ground and was like, hurry, get down here and run another play. You want to know what I said watching in that moment? I said that he didn't catch it. I don't need to see a replay. No receiver who actually knows they caught the ball is going to get up and be like, you better hurry and get down here and run a play. When I saw that, I was like, oh, they better review this, because he wouldn't be reacting that way if he knew he caught it. The thing is, he knew he didn't catch it. That's why he was like, yo, hurry, yo, hurry, yo, hurry. But the dummies, the clowns in the booth that are supposed to be looking out for stuff like this are like, what? What happened? You know what I mean? All the stupid crap y'all review that take time out of the game, time out of our lives to review the stupidest stuff, and you're not going to take a look at that on 4th and 3? The difference in whether or not the Niners get the ball or the Eagles have 1st and goal? The Eagles scored a touchdown 2 plays later. Everybody on Twitter's like, man, what a catch by Devontae Smith. I'm like, no, it wasn't a catch. But we didn't look at it. We didn't look at it. Because the stupid officials, and you know what? To be fair, the 49ers, their coach, he could have thrown a red challenge flag. But the thing is, I can understand how he wouldn't have a chance to look at it. Because he's standing on it. He's a road team. They're obviously probably not showing it on the Tron. Because the only dummies who do that are the Titans. But, somebody in the booth, somebody up top whose job it is to point out stuff like this, could you not use your common sense and be like, hey, Devontae Smith just got up and is trying to get them to hurry down there to run a play so that we don't review this. Maybe he knows something we don't. I mean, Devontae Smith is making it obvious to you that he didn't catch it. Because he's like, I'm going to hurry up and get down here. Hurry up and get down here and run a play. But, whatever. Better not say anything about it. Don't say nothing about the officiating. Now, I will say this. The play everybody's talking about last night was the roughing the passer on Cincinnati that literally set up the Chiefs for their game-winning field goal. That was not a bad call by the referees. By the current standards, that was not so much a bad call as it was just a bad play. Just a stupid play, and I'm not going to harp on it because the player for Cincinnati who made that play is clearly devastated about it and probably having a bad day because of it. So I'm not going to harp on that too much because he's a human being and he made a mistake and it's the heat of the moment and I get it. But that wasn't so much a bad call as it was just a boneheaded play. It sucks for him because, it just, stuff happens sometimes. But, that was the game. And if he doesn't make that play, we're probably going to overtime. There was 8 seconds left. I mean, the Chiefs could have tried to throw an out or something and get a little closer. But we're probably going to overtime. But as soon as that penalty gets called, it's like, well, this game's over. And it was. So there you go. I had to rant about the officiating. And like I said, that call, the roughing the passer, personal foul out of bounds, whatever it was, that's not one of the calls I'm talking about. That's a call they're going to make 100% of the time. Again, guy's clearly going out of bounds. You push him. That's just a boneheaded play. But there were so many instances, not just in the games yesterday, but in these playoffs as a whole. It's like, God, let the players decide. Let the players decide who wins and loses, and when you see an obvious penalty, call it. Otherwise, just you guys aren't the main characters. Officiating should not decide games, and it does too often. I hate it. Anyway, the Chiefs and the Eagles are playing in the Super Bowl in 2 weeks. And, I think that there's going to be a lot made of Mahomes' injury, whether or not he's going to be able to be 100%. He looked fine to me last night. And, as far as the Eagles, they're rolling in a way that it looks about unstoppable right now. So it's going to be a good Super Bowl. Going to be a fun thing, and we'll see. We'll see what happens. If Mahomes is going to win another one, or if Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown and the Eagles are going to get a ring. I will say, if the Eagles win this thing, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough to see A.J. Brown up there holding up that trophy, and I hope John Robinson's watching. I hope John Robinson is watching. Thank you guys for joining me on the Two Tone Talk podcast today. You guys are the best. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Don't forget, you can go and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Go follow me on Twitter at Two Tone Talk. This is the Two Tone Talk podcast, where we're staying way too high on the wins, way too low on the losses. Thank you guys for joining me. Have a good day. Bye, everybody.
Of what's got you down, take your worries, stomp them in the ground. Said to stomp them in the ground. You need to stomp them in the ground. They always got something to say now. Yeah, never satisfied. They'll never say it to your face, no.